Hey, this is 11 Honors Lit, and we spent some time today, a little bit yesterday, going over some biblical allusions that appear in literature. And so I just thought I'd pick some. It's on this sheet that anybody who wasn't here today should have. And we've actually done them all. I do want to check them for homework grade. I'm going to go over a few of them right now in just a few minutes that they had trouble with. I don't know the ones that you might, but start with number 17, Garden of Gethsemane. This is a reference to the night Jesus was arrested, night of the Last Supper, and he was arrested while he was with his disciples, and it means, I guess it refers to anybody's experience where it was kind of a crucial moment of decision, because he was still asking the Father to take this cup away from him, but he said, "Thy will be done, not mine, but thine be done." That's 17. 26, Jephthah's daughter, maybe a little obscure, but it's in the book of Judges, and Jephthah was one of the 12 judges of Israel, and he was in a battle and prayed to God, vowed to God that if God would grant him the victory over the enemy, he would sacrifice the first thing that came out of his tent. And when he gets there, he's heartbroken to see that the first thing out of his tent was his daughter, whom after he gave her a year to mourn and to prepare, he executed, he sacrificed. Child sacrifice is against God's will. He never ordered or wanted anybody to do that. So Jephthah did this on his own, but it does warn people of their vows before God, particularly. Be careful what you vow. John the Baptist, number 28, he was the cousin of Jesus, who was the voice crying in the wilderness that was mentioned in the Old Testament. He was preparing the way for Jesus, and he was the one, if you'll look at it, number 55, Salome is not a word that appears, a name that appears in the Bible, but it's the traditional name for the daughter of his wife. I believe he married his brother's wife, so he married his sister-in-law, which John the Baptist specifically forbade, and the wife was upset with John the Baptist, so she, at a party, the daughter, Salome, was dancing, and he liked it so much, he said, "I'll give you anything you want up to half my kingdom." And so the mother had prepared her to ask for the head of John the Baptist, which is what, on a platter, which is what the king, although sad about it, King Herod immediately did. Joseph and his brothers, 29. Joseph is the one of the last two, the next to last son of Jacob, and he was the one which had the coat of many colors. This was the cause of much concern for the brothers and jealousy, because they thought that Joseph was being favored by the father. So when they had an opportunity, they were going to kill him. Instead, they sold him as a slave. The significance of this is that God used Joseph as a way to protect the entire family because of the famine that was coming, and Joseph became the second in command in Egypt, and he forgave his brothers. 37, Lilies of the Field. This is a reference to, I believe it's in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus was talking about anxiety, don't worry about anything. He said that even the lilies of the field are clothed by God, and better than Solomon in all his glory. So the point was that God takes care of lilies in the field, birds of the air. He'll take care of men. 38, lies down with the Lamb. This is a reference to the kingdom, the second coming of Christ, sort of maybe the millennial period, where nature is now in harmony, and lions don't eat lambs, they lie down with them. On the back, there are a few others we'll go through. Mammon, 42, is the name of, is another word for money. It's actually used by John Milton as one of the demons in hell, but it's materialism or money. Jesus says that, you can't live by mammon, 45 is the massacre of the innocents. This is what Herod did to the children, the young boy children, sons, firstborn sons in in Bethlehem. When Jesus was born, he was so afraid of the coming of a new king that he massacred all the children 2 and younger, but Jesus got away with his family. 50 Philistines are that group of people on the coast next to Israel who one of their greatest nemesis or greatest enemies. David beheaded the head of a Philistine who was named Goliath. Rachel and Leah, 53. These were the 2 oldest daughters of Laban. And Jacob worked 7 years to marry the daughter, and he chose Rachel, but Laban, their father, fooled him and gave him Leah instead, and so he had to work 7 more years for Rachel. 55 Salome, we've already mentioned. 56 Sermon on the Mount. This is Jesus' famous sermon that was presented in early in Matthew, probably in Luke, I'm sure, I know. But the Sermon on the Mount is supposed to be a reminder to the people of Israel that Moses also went on a mountain, Mount Sinai, and brought down the law of God. 59 swords into plowshares, a reference to that millennial period or end time period after the second coming, when men no longer fight with swords, but they beat the swords into useful equipment like plowshares. 60 pieces of silver is how much Judas received from the Sanhedrin, from the Jews, for betraying Jesus. 61, through a glass darkly, comes from 1 Corinthians 13, where Paul says that on this side of glory, we don't understand things. We see in the glass, we see as though through a foggy or dirty mirror or glass. And he goes on to say that in the next life we will see as face to face, it'll be clear. And finally, 62, Tower of Babel. This is a reference to the people led by Nimrod who came together to build this tower that probably represented a place of worship. So it was their man's effort to worship a god, and they were also working together. And so God saw the danger of people, and first of all, they were in violation of his command in Genesis to people the earth, to fill the earth and multiply and fill the earth. So they were coming together into one spot rather than going out into the world. And so he scattered them. We don't know how, but he scattered them and also confused their languages so that they couldn't work together. And so they did scatter from that moment out into the world. So these are just some of the ones. I'd like to check this when you finish it. I doubt if we'll have a separate test on this, but these are terms that we can refer to, and they're very helpful. I will also include in our on my Caldwell a poem entitled On His Blindness by John Milton, and here there is one biblical allusion, and so as an illustration, so I'll make that available. I hope this is helpful. Thank you.